We talked about Harrison Ford's love of flying. He has many, many hours in the air. David Cohen with Variety, he's the features editor, joining us live here now to talk a little bit more about that. What can you tell us, David?
Well, I'm not an expert on aviation, but I got to say, when we look at this video of that golf course, I'm struck by the idea that it took one nifty piece of flying to take a plane that has got a full tank and is coming back from its initial takeoff, landed on that golf course, not have it burst into flame, not hit anyone, and not kill himself. I got to say, he's an experienced crash lander, and that's not really something anybody wants to be, but I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, it is quite impressive. He had talked to Barbara Walters in 2008, and this is a quote that's been circulating around social media. He said, "I love the freedom of flight. I love the places you go. I love the people in aviation, the people that I meet in aviation." Talking to some of the folks there who fly in and out of the Santa Monica airport, they say the same thing. They say everyone loves him there, that he's a great guy. He talks to everyone there, that he really does love flying.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, first of all, you have to if you're going to go through multiple crashes. At some point, if you didn't love it, you would say, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. So clearly this is a passion for him. But also, you know, he's sort of a taciturn person with people he's not comfortable with, and I think it's great for him to get into a world where it's not about him being a movie star, it's about him being a pilot and being treated more or less like any other pilot.
But to the rest of us, he's still a movie star.
Boy, he sure is, isn't he?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people said the only vintage aircraft they want to see Harrison Ford in is the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
And they're you know, heartsick over the fact that he crashed here. I'm wondering though, with this Star Wars movie coming out, I mean, what do insurers think of his aviation career?
Oh, I'm sure they're less than happy about it, but he'll still be insurable. You know, there's a funny thing with this. We were getting the reports that he had cuts on his face, and that's likely to leave a scar because cuts on your face tend to leave a scar. Well, if you remember back in the early days of Star Wars, Mark Hamill had a motorcycle crash between the first and second film, and they wrote in a scene in the film to explain why his face looked different.
Well,
they could easily do the same thing with Star Wars in the future if Harrison Ford has new scars on his face.
In the future, he's 72 years old. I don't know how many more Star Wars movies he's going to be making, David, but maybe so.
We don't know if they're killing him off in the next one or not.
You talk about that scar, but as Jeff was pointing out, and I thought the same thing, he does have that infamous scar.
Prominent scar, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know,
I don't know if he gained it through
has
infamy.
a reputation.
Well,
yeah, I don't either.
Indiana Jones, they addressed it, you know, and said that the whip had recoiled back on his face.
And him, by the way, Harrison Ford has said himself of that scar, when asked about it, it's not an interesting story. Now he's got a scar with an interesting story.
Well, could have a scar.
Exactly.
Yeah, a couple of interesting stories here. So, you know, he's set to star in that Star Wars that's coming out later this year. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the nature of his injuries are after this.
Well, certainly that is a big unanswered question, is how badly injured is he, and is he going to be able to continue his career? And I think we shouldn't assume anything either way about that at this point, because he could have broken bones, he could be in far worse shape than we initially are hearing. So I think we all just have to wait and see what they say.
You know, it's interesting. This is Jeff Michael, by the way. Would you agree that the public knows Harrison Ford for being on screen, and yet it's possible he has greater expertise at flying than he even does at acting?
I think he's an underrated actor, and I can't speak to his expertise as a flyer, but he's a pretty experienced flyer, and there are a lot fewer really experienced pilots than actors.